Will Asian Americans be finally accepted by the American mainstream by 2035? Some people are wondering, and here's our predictions.
After decades of ups and downs, where will the Asian American narrative land in mainstream media? Let's talk about it, Andrew. There's this viral Reddit post. He said, hey guys, do you expect Asian Americans to be mainstream in Western culture later this decade or the 2030s? In my eyes, only Steve Aoki or Bruce Lee have sort of achieved it without any sort of like DEI boost. But things are looking up, guys. Where are we going to land?
All right. Clearly, this guy is, he's a little bit frantic. He probably needs some extra validation. He's probably wondering, hey, when's the macro going to change so that my life changes? Natural. That is natural. So we're here to talk about it, guys. There's a whole bunch of comments that we're going to analyze. But before we go into that, please hit that like button and check out other episodes of the Hot Pot Boys. And also check out Smala Sauce, which is trying to make mala chili oil more mainstream.
I would call it Marco Polo sauce. Unofficially.
Mainstream mala, baby.
Real quick, Andrew, there are 3 central questions that we have to ask to even ask, like define the question. We have to define the premise. Point number 1, Andrew, what do you consider true Asian American culture? How similar or linked or disjointed is it from Asian culture?
Right, like boba. Is boba Asian culture or Asian American culture? The way that we consume it and love it is probably, like the boba life is probably more Asian American, but the product itself definitely originated from Asia.
Right, and what if you're not Taiwanese or you're not Chinese? Is it okay to like boba, or do you like boba at the same levels as somebody emanating from countries, with relation to the source of boba or whatever, right?
I guess on a side note, I would argue that 7 Leaves as a boba chain is very Asian American because that's only something like a Viet, Southeast Asian owned boba shop is only something that would really happen in America.
I need to see what the waitresses look like. If they're ABGs, that, I don't know. It's just different, man. Is it clear that ASEAN culture did not develop from something from the late 90s into a full-fledged culture? Do you agree with that?
Kevin Wynn, that's the last thing that came out of the ASEAN culture.
All right. I would say, in my opinion, defining what is true Asian culture in terms of its manifestation in America, first off, you have to say that you think different from a regular American. Okay. There has to be some different thinking. But some people saying, Andrew, are Asian Americans just a Western sandwich, but with a few Asian spices? Or are we more like a plate of noodles, but with Western spices on top? If you had to say, does that analogy make sense?
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, I would say for Asian Americans, if you look very Asian, then you are more so the plate of noodles with Western flavor, like the Chinese hand-pulled noodles with like bolognese sauce on it or something.
Okay. But then you're saying that if you are hyper-Westernized, you could be a sandwich with a few Asian dressings on top.
Sure, but I really think because you look Asian, so you're still
it's more
Asian.
the noodles with the Western sauces and spices on top, right? Ultimately, Andrew, what got accepted first? Well, let's just go through real quick, Andrew. What clearly from the Asian world, the Eastern Hemisphere, got accepted in terms of mass adoption or usage in the West?
Yeah, I'll rank it. So I think 1, Asian cars and tech. Obviously, that's an easy one. Asian food is more and more accepted. We see this, especially Asian fusion food. K-pop, K-dramas, obviously very big globally. I think Asian women and Asian American women. I think Asian clothing brands, fashion, skincare, makeup, that kind of stuff. That stuff people put on their face and skin, and it's from Asian companies, although it's not Asian face. I think Asian languages is getting a little bit bigger. I mean, Korean, a lot of people are learning that, obviously, for a number of reasons. And then I think Asian men, obviously, is on the list that we've seen an improvement, but we're lower on the list. And, I guess not hating China would be on the list, too. That seems like hard to accept for a lot of Americans.
Well, you're talking about points of acceptance and then choke points. Right. And you're saying choke points are Asian guys and sort of like China's influence, rising influence, also ancient influence.
David, another question. So this is point number 2 before we get in the comment section. My question is, do you think that the mainstream will start to differentiate between superior Asian immigrants that succeed like Shohei Ohtani or American-born Asians? Like, do you think people are going to make that distinction? Like basically a Jeremy Lin or a Shohei Ohtani, for example?
I think it depends on like the whole overall story. I think that Shohei helps all Asians but he's not viewed as Asian American, so he's not going to be on the cover of every single Time magazine like when Jeremy Lin came through coming from Harvard.
Right.
So I just think that, what's your answer? I mean, I think my short answer is no. They don't differentiate between Asia products and Asian Americans in terms of Western people.
But to your credit, I mean, like what you just said, I do think it matters. I do think they kind of differentiate because I think Shohei is seen as an import that is a supreme talent, like global talent.
You're saying like Lexus and Toyota.
Yeah, no, he's just imported, but he's going to go back. Like, I don't think Shohei's going to live the rest of his life in America. He's coming here to play baseball, and then he'd probably go back to Japan for most of his life.
You mean sort of like Jokic?
Yeah, but Jeremy Lin, whether he's playing some time in China or Taiwan, he's going to come back to America and live his life.
Right. So the answer is yes and no. Yeah. I guess that point doesn't have an easy answer. It's situational. It depends on how the media spins the narrative and if they relate to it and if there's a good story there. Question number 3. Is it about gatekeepers letting us in the game, or is it more about Asian Americans developing more internally as a community? I would say that the short answer is both. Because Asians need to develop more as a community so we have a product ready. So when the gatekeepers do let us in, we have more of a fleshed out, I guess, product offering.
Yeah, but I guess like maybe don't hold your breath for the gatekeepers. Sometimes they'll let you in if they see the incentive, or if you partner with one of the gatekeepers, that's a way to get in, or if you marry one of the gatekeepers or whatever it is. But do not hold your breath and just do you.
Right. Let's get into the comment section real quick. Really interesting discussions here. This guy said part of it, yeah, we'll have like a small slice, but a large slice in the mainstream, probably not. All I know is that Asian food will become mainstream, more acceptable before Asian people.
I agree. 100% Asian food is out there. I see everybody's incorporating some type of Asian flavors into their food. And yes, in a macro over time, that does help Asian people to this day. It's not a direct help. It's not like, oh, a girl eats kimchi or a girl has had dim sum, so now she wants to date Asian guys. You know it doesn't work like that. But over time, if people are more exposed to our spaces, our restaurants, they're eating from Asian chefs, they're paying money to eat from an Asian male or Asian female, then yes, of course it matters.
Right. Well, that's a sort of an open door.
Yeah.
Specifically that door. There's like a lot of different doors in society. And if you guys look at the culture wheel of what makes up culture, food is one of the doors, right, but one of many. I'll say this. I think it's pretty clear to Western people that Asian food has more flavor and is more complex than Western culture. But it's hard to say that a lot of Western people view Asian people as more flavorful than Western people in terms of personality. So I think that's part of it too.
Are you more flavorful than a average white person?
All right. Of course, there was a lot of arguing about what is Asian versus Asian American. People were saying, yeah, Asian American culture is still not fleshed out, because if you look at a lot of Asian American movies, they're still about dealing with how to feel American. But Asian movies are about like a trillion different things.
Right.
Somebody said, as a third generation Asian American guy, I'm glad we're not inside that super corrupt system. You see entertainment, music, hip hop falling apart right in front of our eyes. So maybe we should be glad that we were left out of them all these decades.
Yo, that's actually a crazy idea. What if like the music industry and Hollywood purge happens, as in like all the bad people who have been low key doing bad stuff gets caught?
It's beginning to happen.
Yeah. And then after all those people fall off, Asians just take their spots.
That's a funny point, but I don't know. The Sony CEO, I think he might have got caught up in some Diddy things. I'm not sure. Somebody said, listen, guys, you just can't expect that the Asian American experience is going to develop like the African American experience. For example, in the same year that Crazy Rich Asians came out, Black Panther came out. But if you look at the themes in Black Panther, it was so much more militant. It's so much more like, you know, we got to stick together, warrior, like root for Wakanda. And Crazy Rich Asians was about rich Asians trying to figure out their family.
Hey, and it was about rich Asians in Asia. So yet again, we are looking to Asia to help boost us, guys. That movie doesn't really take off if it takes place even in Beverly Hills, because it's just not a story that would really make as much sense. It had to take place in Singapore.
But do you think, I think a lot of Asians are dissatisfied, especially if they've watched a lot of ethnic things from other communities, the Spanish Latin community or the Black community, where it's like, where's our Talocan? Or was it Talocan? Where's our, not Talocan.
Wakanda.
Where's our Wakanda? Where's our, I forgot where the Spanish indigenous people were living underneath the water.
I forgot. Yeah.
But somebody said we just need a Tyler Perry system that is funded with multi-millions of dollars, but funded outside of the Hollywood ecosystem fishbowl.
Yes, we have that. That's in Asia.
No, he's talking about that Atlanta.
I know what this guy's talking about, but I'm just saying you do have big entertainment systems outside of Hollywood in Asia. But yes, if you want it in America, it's going to be tougher because producing stuff in America is more expensive. How are you going to get the return on investment? And are the Asian American stories even the ones you can sell globally? Can you even sell them to the rest of America?
I would say the Latino American community also does not have a Tyler Perry.
Not really. I don't know if they have their version of.
They have reggaeton, but that's like different too. Maybe bolero if you're like an older crowd. Somebody said there's just simply not enough of us in Western countries to influence it to any sort of great degree. All of us would have to have about 10 babies, but we're not really known for having 10 babies. That's interesting. Yeah, it's a population equation. Of course, there was a lot of arguing over, Andrew. We got to stop thinking we're monolith. There is no even one Asian culture. Because they're talking about like Asian culture is so diverse and so different. This is a point that I would kind of argue yes and no. I think we happen to be from a family and a background where we know I grew up around like everything from like Samoans all the way to like people from Ilocano Filipinos all the way to every single type of East Asian. So for me, I kind of see the similarity, but I could see if you were like born into a different life or a different, life experiences, all our lives are so different, you might not see the similarities.
Right.
I see the similarities. Mm-hmm. So I guess, for me, I root for Tua, you know what I mean? As a QB and stuff like that. But I know that a lot of Asians, they're depending on how they were coached by their parents, they may only support the type of Asian they were born into. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think there's a theoretical basis for it. Some people, this guy said, we just need to wait for China to overthrow the white hegemony of the globe. So here's the thing. I think that in a way, like the Sinosphere could have been that thing, but I just don't see it happening. Because I guess what? There's just so much history that happened and there's so much modern things that happen that's just preventing people from coalescing. But I think if people really hung out with a lot of different types of Asians across socioeconomic classes, you would see there's probably more similar than different, but of course there's differences. Somebody said, I don't see it. The perpetual foreigner is a real thing in this country. Somebody said, we have to wait for the silent generation and the boomers to age out of control because they're still frozen in the old ways. Because a lot of people are saying their parents, Andrew, they came over at a very divided time in Asia, and they're still keeping the community divided more than the younger generations are.
Agreed.
Somebody said, white people are not going to let us do it. They're not going to let us like coalesce and like build power. Do you think that's true, or is it more like Asians aren't coming together?
I don't think there's as much barring Asians. Like, I don't think that there's like forces that are saying like trying to split the Asian community. I don't think like the FBI and the CIA are trying to like disrupt this Asian American coalescing movement.
They're getting unified.
Yeah, It's not like during like this, it's not like during the Black Panthers, like, that there was some stuff going on back then, but it's not the same for us. For us, we got to get over these differences first. It's more on us. It's more so on us.
And here's the last comment, of course. Nope, the cultural trends here are too established and we're too insignificant and fractured to make any significant difference, let alone that 80% of Asian Americans are convinced that the constant passive racism we suffer is somehow not just acceptable, but some will even argue that it's deserved. Get rich, invest well, and leave for the motherland is my plan. No way I'm raising my kids in the West. This is the return to the East plan that, Andrew, is becoming increasingly trendy if you're in online spaces.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, guys.
Hey, I want to see you move.
Let me know if you're interested in this newsletter down below. And I got a very interesting project regarding this. Ultimately, I'll say this, man. I think that Asian American culture, as far as its development, its coalescing, whatever, get out of the weeds of all the fracturing and stuff like that, even though all that stuff is real, we will develop more and more in America, right? But it's just not going to develop in a way that looks exactly, for sure, not like the Black American community, where, for example, Andrew, the dominant image of a Black person globally is dictated by probably somebody who is African American. Yeah. Whether they're a sports athlete or an entertainer or like a Denzel or like Jay-Z or et cetera, et cetera. That's almost like the dominant global positioning. I think that Asians we'll almost always have our dominant global perception, Andrew, dominated by Asia. For example, Andrew, you know, there's that song Yuki Chiba with Meg Thee Stallion right now. Watashi wasta. That wasn't an Asian American artist collaborating with Meg Thee Stallion. That was a Japanese artist.
Right.
But yeah, ultimately, guys, I always say this, man. You know, on this channel, we preach people to like understand differences so you can kind of get over differences. And that's for all Asian people. But I realize that no matter how many videos we make about it, I can never impact somebody's mind as much as like their parents can. You know what I mean? Like I could just be this online voice that like offers a different perspective. Some people are going to relate to it more than others. Halfway, quarter way, 75%. You determine, you know, what's right for you and what's relatable and how much you can marinate in it. But ultimately, I'll say this, man. The best thing you can do is have a great life yourself without even worrying about this issue. So don't wait for mainstream validation to live a great individual life. Because I would say previous decades didn't have it. Why do you need it now to have a great life? It's not a missing, what's it called in Marvel? Thanos, one of the gemstones. It's not one of the missing stones.
Infinity Stones.
It's not one of the Infinity Stones. You think it is, but it's not. Media representation in America is not an Infinity Stone. It'd be nice, though. Anyway, guys, sign up for my newsletter in the fold down below. Check it out. It's a really, really cool project. Let me know what you want to see out of it. Tiger Club Elite. And until next time, we're the Hot Pot Boys. We out.
Peace.